was for my hometown heroes. Made it to the top from zero. And from my hometown heroes. Made it to the top from zero.
All right, it's George Schwertl here with Mark MK, and we are here to interview the Suffolk County District Attorney, Ray Tierney. Ray, how are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on the show, Ray. I mean, this is so much to discuss. First of all, how you doing?
Good. We're doing good. We're going into our third year now. Time flies when you're having fun.
Sure.
And, we have a lot of things going on. It seems like a new thing every day. So, we're just sort of plowing ahead and, it's important work, and we're every day we there's a little something different.
Ray, I remember on the campaign trail, and I remember everybody coming up to you speaking about the Gilgo, and I'm jumping right into that. It's just, and you said, I'm going to look into that my first day, and you did. And I mean, it's so impressed that you jumped right into that. And if you could tell us a little bit how I think about the pizza. Obviously, I saw it all over the news, the guy eating the pizza, the DNA. But
Sure. It's the funny thing about Gilgo, I think, is it's sort of, because it's so noteworthy. It's what people talk about. But I think it's the approach that we use to criminal investigations in general. Which is, work with our partners, examine all of the evidence. We live in an incredibly digital world now, and there's a lot of forensic evidence. Right now, in 2024, there's a tremendous amount of forensic evidence available, electronic evidence. You go back even to 2010. There's still a lot of evidence you could look at. So that's basically what we did. We work with our partners first and foremost. You have to work with your partners hand in glove. We put together a great task force. We had a lot of talented people. We had a lot of agencies with great resources. We digitalized the file, which at this point was, 13 years old. So a massive amount of information. You digitalize it so you could search it.
Sure.
Then you go through it. And you go where the evidence leads you. And that's what we did in this case. And that's what we do in all our cases.
I heard it from so many people in your interviews and your statements. And everyone says to me that when you said it's because this matters, the people, the families, it matters. And that really resonated with so many people. I just felt like they never thought that it mattered. And then here you come and it matters.
Well, I definitely think that there was, an issue with leadership, prior to us getting there. And so, we were able to put together a great team and work together. That's the most important thing. But even when I ran, I had the chance to meet the victims' families, and we said we were going to do the best we could. We told them, because I knew that the perpetrator of these crimes would be surveilling our investigation through the internet, through the media. So I said, you're not going to hear from us. We're going to do our work. We're going to do our work quietly. We're going to use the grand jury process because that's secret, and that's our advantage. The perpetrator won't see us coming. So that's what we did. But until when you're running, and even when you start, these are names in a police report. Then you meet the families, and you realize that these are moms and sisters and spouses and whatever else, aunts. They had hopes and dreams, and difficult circumstances brought them to a certain time in their life where they were hunted down and killed. So to be able to give that small measure of closure to the families, to let the families know that these women matter, their lives matter, and that we care in Suffolk County. That was by far the most rewarding part of it.
Well,
But if I could say, you said, that it matters, and that you said on the campaign trail that you were going to investigate. Everybody, the prior administration said the same thing, except you did it.
I have a
And that's
question
the
about that
difference.
too. Because when you watch documentaries or movies about it, you see that the parents are distressed because they feel like they've been forgotten. Like people they're not paying attention to the case anymore.
Sure.
Time took its course. But what motivated you to continue the fight on for the families?
Well, I think that the one thing that I always tried to do, I've been doing this for about 30 years now,
Mm-hmm.
is you try to gain a rapport with the victims' families. You try, the criminal justice system is designed to, protect the constitutional rights of the accused, which is how it should be. But as a consequence of that, it's a tough system for victims and victims' families. So, we try to help them as much as we can. And that's what we did in this case. But, the victims' families, I'm sure at some point they'll speak, and they'll speak to their experience. But, I think it wasn't ever a question of the rank and file not caring or not doing the work. And I think more it was just at the upper echelons there was a lot of dysfunction and a lot of sort of unwillingness or inability to work together, and I think that's really what it was.
Well,
Teamwork.
it speaks to your administration because you got in and you got it. You got it done in a timely manner. I'm sure the parents appreciate that. Us in Suffolk, we appreciate that.
Yeah, we got in, we digitalized the file, which took a long time.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI helped us with that, and we had our first task force meeting February 1st. 6 weeks later, March 14, 2022, we identified a suspect, and we were off and running, and ever since that time, because it's one thing to develop a suspect. It's another thing to bring charges appropriate for court, and that's what we wanted to do. We did it secretly, and we wanted to do it secret because we had the plan that we would have the behind the scenes grand jury aspect of the investigation, and then once we were ready to make an arrest, we would couple that arrest with a whole bunch of execution of search warrants, which we did.
Now, did I see that the wife of the accused serial killer is kind of like switching sides in her testimony?
Yeah, I mean, what she does is what she does. She comes out with statements or whatever. But that's typical in cases, and that's
Right.
really nothing that we as prosecutors pay all that much attention to.
Right.
What we focus on our case and what it is that we need to do.
Ray, let me the situation in Babylon with the dismemberment case. I guess that's the I guess the battle you're fighting there is with the bail reform.
Yeah, I mean, that was an aspect of it. It's just, I think it's just, I mean, it's public perception. If you have, and I'm not specifically talking about a case, but by way of example, if you have 6 people who go into a room and 4 people come out, and because the other 2 people are dead, can you charge, who do you charge with murder?
Sure.
And to people who don't understand the criminal justice system would say, well, you charge everybody with murder. Well, is it self-defense? Is it manslaughter? Did one person participate? Did all 4 people participate? So these are things that you have to look into to make sure you get the right result. And that's what we did. And because the murder happened, behind inside a house, it's going to take time to prove because you're going to look at, for instance, you're going to look at DNA, you're going to look at license plate readers, you're going to look at cell phone evidence, whatever it may be. So that all takes time. What we were able to see is what was out in the open, and that was the dumping of the bodies. So we were able to prove that, but unfortunately, under New York state law, notwithstanding our ability to bring those charges, they're not bail eligible, and that was the position we saw ourselves in. And so, as a prosecutor, I am ethically enjoined from bringing cases that I can't, in good faith, believe I can prove at the time. So we're going to work the evidence. And we're going to. You only have one opportunity to get it right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to evaluate all the evidence, and then we're going to take a look at the case again.
Oh, great! That's great.
I know here on the Gray Report we like to humanize our guest. Kids, when you ask them what do they want to be when they grow up, a basketball player, a singer. What made Ray Tierney say, I want to be the Suffolk County District Attorney.
Well, I don't think I ever said I want. I don't think I ever said I want. I think as a kid, I wanted to be a football player. But that was not going to happen. So, I played sports my whole life. I really enjoyed it. I think I got a lot out of it. But in addition to that, I got good grades, and if you're a good writer and you could speak, teachers say, oh, you should be a lawyer. So when I was young and unsophisticated, I said, oh, a lawyer, that's the guy who goes into court and tries cases and protects communities as a prosecutor. So that was my sort of understanding of what a lawyer. Oh, the only thing a lawyer does when I was young. As I got older and more sophisticated, my desire to do that really never left me, and I went to law school with the specific purpose of becoming a prosecutor. Now, I never thought I'd be DA because, DA is, at the end of the day, a political position, and I was never political. So I didn't think I'd ever get the opportunity to be DA, but that was fine with me. I figured I'd be, just the professional prosecutor.
What motivated you?
I think I had seen. I had worked in Suffolk County. I worked in Suffolk County for 14 and a half years. I worked as a federal prosecutor for 11 and a half years. I worked in Brooklyn, in the Brooklyn DA's office for just under 2. So I saw a lot of things. I gained a lot of insight. I met a lot of really great people. And I saw, some things in Suffolk County that I knew I could improve upon, and I was born and raised in Suffolk County. I raised my own family in Suffolk County. So sort of unexpectedly, I got the opportunity to run for office, and I was asked to run for office. So when I was asked to run for office, my dad always had this motto who said, you're allowed to complain, but the second you have the opportunity to do something about it and you don't do it, you can't complain anymore. So I like to complain. So I said, if given the opportunity, I should take it, and that's what I did.
You're handling some of the most high stress cases we've seen in New York, Suffolk County in a while. How do you keep going? Like, what do you do for your own mental health and physical? How do you keep this going? Because you make it look good.
Well, I think the one thing is, and I've always been good at this, is, this is what I do. This isn't what I am. I have family that is very important to me. And, when I'm with my family, when I'm outside doing this job, we don't talk about, my job. I'm very different with my family than I am at work, number one. And then number two, you have to have the proper perspective with regard to being a prosecutor, because it's not like, in my former life as an athlete, you play a game and you win a game and it's euphoria. Yeah, yay, we won. But in this instance, even when you win a trial and obtain a guilty verdict, which is wonderful, which is nice for the family, but there's still that human tragedy that no one could do anything about. So you sort of have to realize that there are certain things you can control, certain things you can't control, and just keep a good perspective about it. And you have to have a really good team. I have a great team. I have about 250 prosecutors, and I have a number of investigators that are assigned to my office, investigators with the Suffolk County PD and other agencies that we work with. And I'm really lucky. My ADAs have really done great work. They're really working hard and, take the job seriously, and so do the investigators. So, it's, if you had to do it yourself, you couldn't do it yourself. So fortunately, I have a great many people that I could lean on and rely upon.
Goes back to teamwork.
Yeah.
It's all about the teamwork.
That's right.
Teamwork on the cases, teamwork in the office. Yeah. It's what's the next question is the fentanyl crisis.
Yeah, the fentanyl crisis, when going into it, I knew that the fentanyl crisis was profound, and, that was going to be a priority. Certainly fentanyl, quality of life, gang and gun violence. These was just some of our things that we were going to take a look at. But, it's similar to Gilgo. these, when you look at, we lead the state in opioid overdoses, per capita, that's a stat. And then you meet the families, and then you put, faces and names and experience to those statistics. And it's devastating, especially the opioid crisis, because there's not a community that has not been affected in Suffolk County by the opioid overdose crisis. So you could live anywhere in Suffolk. You could be any race, color, creed, religion, however you want to divide people up. Those communities have been profoundly affected by the opioid overdose crisis. So what we do is we work our cases. We work especially these deadly fentanyl, xylazine, nitazine cases where they're really pushing this poison. We're making those cases a priority, and we're trying to punish as much as we can people who are selling these poisons. But we also have to, realize we have to do something about addiction, mental health. COVID was devastating, when it came to that. And then the other thing is, some of the laws are, we can't make excuses, and my prosecutors do a great job of not making excuses, not saying, it's bail reform or it's this or it's that. But having said that, because I think a lot of this criminal justice reform and bail reform were passed on the lie, based upon the lie that they would keep us safe, I think as a district attorney, I have an obligation to say, no, these laws do not keep us safe, and here's why. And here's some common sense changes that we can enact that will actually help us keep us safe. So, we do the prosecution, we do the rehabilitation, we do the community outreach, and we also do the sort of the outreach to the legislature and said, come and join us and help be a partner with us. Because, for instance, right now, I cannot put someone in jail for possession of fentanyl unless they possess enough fentanyl to kill 113,451 people.
Wow.
So,
how many?
113,451 people. So that's ridiculous,
Yes.
and it needs to be changed. And we should have a death by dealer statute. Xylazine right now in New York State, tranq, it's not illegal. So we need an analog. I mean, I could go on and on,
Sure.
but we just need some tweaks and changes to the law, and I think it would go a long way in helping to keep people safe.
I was fortunate to be with you. I know Mark was up there as well for the fentanyl rally in Albany, and I got to meet some of the families, and I drove home, and I was just a very quiet ride.
Yeah, it was a great event. Sometimes you go up to Albany and you're like, why the heck am I going up to Albany? But that was well worth it. We also had a driving while drugged and drinking rally the next day, which was equally as impactful, I thought. But it was great because what we had it wasn't just, sometimes I feel as though, I talk and I talk and I talk, but, we had groups up there. We had labor unions. We had police organizations. We had victims. So we had mental health experts. We had addiction experts, and they were all up there saying we need to do something. And it's a large coalition of people. And what I say to them is, look, we could disagree on certain things. We don't have to agree on everything.
Sure.
But what we have to do is we have to have the dialogue, and we have to move forward legislation that's going to help our communities. So it was great. And I'll tell you, I felt that the legislature, I was very gratified by their response, because I think that they really carefully considered everything we did. And I think they did that in large part because the families, their stories are so impactful. You talk to these parents, and as a human being, as a parent, they tell you their story, and you cannot not be affected by, the extraordinary efforts that they undertook to save their children to no avail, and it breaks your heart.
Yeah, we saw a lot of mothers, a lot of family members in tears that day, and it really hit me, because I'm like, wow, you could see that they want to be heard, and of course they can't get their loved one back.
Yeah.
But if they could,
they want a voice. They want a voice.
Yeah, they want a voice, and to help towards saving lives, so they other families don't have to experience what they're experiencing.
That's the incredible thing to me, because all of them say to a person, they don't want to see another family go through what they've gone through.
And that's what they did say. I know I saw one of your staff, Megan O'Donnell, there. I think she put it together.
Yeah,
worked
she did a great job. Megan did a great job.
Great job. I saw Lucy Kwan there. It was and your whole staff was incredible, organizing and getting everybody out there.
So allegedly, there's been like a breach, involving the Malone administration as far as the destruction of records. What are your thoughts on that?
So, we came out with a statement, and, again, we don't like to come out with a statement because, we don't like to talk about any investigations we may or may not be engaging in.
Right.
I think it's best when a DA's office speaks through indictments in court. But we did make a statement in this case, and we let people know that we were looking into it, because I think it's important that people understand, anytime there's a change in administration, whether it's this one or any other one, there's always that, where things go missing. So, we're going to look at the forensic evaluation of the county computers. We're going to see, what may or may not be missing, and, we're going to act if appropriate, but that's down the line. But for right now, if there are, what people don't, I think what people should realize, certain people in the private sector realize that when you work for Acme Corp and you work on Acme Corp's files, those are Acme Corp's files. And when you leave the employ of Acme Corp, you don't take those files with you and leave Acme Corp with nothing. So, you can't do it. So, and it's against the law to do that. So what we want to, first and foremost, we want to get the materials back, and then we'll take a look at the, what the forensic evaluation says, and we'll go from there. But, first and foremost, what we want to do is we want to protect the county and the taxpayers.
For those that are watching this interview, they may ask, well, why would someone want to take those files? What do they gain from taking those files?
Yeah, I'm not going to speculate as to other people's motivations, and I think should there be an investigation in the case, that answer may be answered. But I think for right now, number one, what we have to make a determination, and again, just like I sound like a broken record, just like the Gilgo case, just like the body parts case in Babylon, all of this forensic data, gigabytes upon gigabytes, terabytes of information, that needs to be downloaded and examined by experts, and then you have to evaluate that once that's done. So it takes time. And in our, again, complex digital world with advanced forensics, that's the biggest difference. And that's the biggest difference in criminal prosecution. I started in 1992, and say you had a robbery case. You would, there would be a witness statement from the clerk, maybe another witness statement, an ID statement saying this is, I saw a picture of the person who committed the crime, and that's the person. I now know him to be, John Doe, and that's your case. Maybe some proceeds that were recovered. That was your entire case. That was your case 2 days after the robbery occurred, and that was the same case you had 6 months down the line when you tried the case. Now you take that same case. There's cell phones, there's social media, there's license plate readers, there's DNA. When I first started, you needed a bucket load of DNA to get a result. Now you get minute amounts of DNA will give you a result. So now you have DNA in a lot more cases. You have cell site location data. On all of this stuff sort of has to be, examined and synthesized and utilized in a comprehensive criminal investigation.
Right. I always think when you were running, you spoke about that case where the young man, I think he was shot. He was wearing a jersey.
I'm sorry?
You remember somebody got shot in a deli or something about gangs?
Oh, yeah. That was the Esteban Alvarado Bonilla. He was wearing a Indianapolis Colt 18 Peyton Manning jersey.
Yes.
And it was a blue 18 jersey, which is the symbol of the 18th Street in La Campesina Deli in Central Islip. And, the rival MS-13 gang saw him. So they then marked him for death, and they killed him. And that was my last federal trial.
That was a federal trial. That
Yeah.
you did, right. I remember you discussing it. And what's going on with the gangs here on Long Island?
So, we've done a lot of comprehensive gang cases. We've really, we have my chief investigator, Rich Zacharis, my bureau chief in our violent criminal enterprises unit, James Slattery, and their group. They do a great job, as well as working with our federal partners and our Suffolk County police partners, as well as our East End partners. So, what I've seen with the gangs, it used to be just the West End problem. Now you're seeing the gangs, bleed out into the East End of Long Island. And again, using all of this comprehensive evidence that you can obtain, what we've been able to do is what I've done as a federal prosecutor and what I've done in Brooklyn with the Kings County DA's office, and what I don't believe really has been done out here in Suffolk County previously, which is develop these comprehensive gang conspiracy cases where you tell the full story of the violence that is being committed by a very, very small percentage of the population. And so what you do is you get all of get all of the violence, acts of violence, and other criminal activity under the umbrella of a gang conspiracy case. And that way, not only the shooters go down, but the people who plan, the people who help, the people who cover up the crime, they're held criminally responsible for it as well. And, because the evidence is so strong and so comprehensive, the chances of, number one, holding him on bail and then having them serve a substantial sentence is greatly increased. What you do is you have to marry the words and the activity with the actual violence, and that's what we've been able to do. So it's been working out well.
That's great. Wasn't there a story where when you were a federal prosecutor, you went to Colombia, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, when I did a Norte Valle drug cartel case, Carlos Arturo Patino Restrepo was a boss in the Norte Valle cartel. He's responsible for, I think, 80 tons of cocaine in the United States. Importing 80 tons of cocaine into the United States, and so we learned of his activities through some traffickers, transporters in the United States. He was indicted. He was charged. He was extradited from Colombia. And we tried him in Central Islip, but in preparation for that trial, we had to go to Colombia and talk to witnesses, which was an incredible experience, really interesting and just a great experience. And again, fortunate to work with some great prosecutors, Alan Bodie, who was my co-counsel in that case and who is my chief assistant now, as well as a lot of really great federal agents as well.
And that's great. You brought Alan with you, which is great.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see your documentary on Netflix.
When he leaves, I'm going to say, I forgot to ask him this. I forgot to ask him that.
I have a question. How does a career criminal remain on the streets to take a life of a police officer? And also, what steps can we look forward to actually having our law enforcement be protected from things like this in the future?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think it's the answer is more complex than you think. I think we started this interview out by talking about how criminal justice and bail reform was passed on the lie, and the lie was that it will keep us more safe. And when you look at all of these initiatives and all these laws individually, they're really bad, but collectively they're a disaster. So if you look at the tragedy, the absolute tragedy that happened in New York City, and the hearts of everyone in Suffolk go out to that officer and his family. But when you look at the perpetrators of that crime, there's the parole system that's implicated. Not only them getting released to parole, but then the less is more law that says that parole officers can no longer do their job, and violate people on, not on what they consider to be administrative violations, like failure to declare where they live, failure to get a job, failure to stay off drugs, whatever it is. So it's once a person is out on parole, it's virtually impossible to get them back in jail for violations, which really obviates the need for parole. So you have all these things, this person's on parole. What does that mean? I would submit that right now it means nothing, because the less is more law has gutted our parole system. Bail reform, individuals, the one individual was out on bail on a gun charge. And again, this is the system that we're operating under, and we can't make excuses about it, but it's a fact. And, unfortunately, you see the ramifications of that in this case, which are unbelievably tragic.
Yep, it's telling on itself.
Yeah, I think if you pay attention, and we have instances. We had a case where a fentanyl dealer, we had to arrest him 4 separate times for dealing fentanyl. Because we just couldn't hold him in on bail, and the entire time, he would get out of jail. He would get out of jail after being responsible for the death of an individual, being responsible for an overdose death, and saying, I'm back in business. I'm back in business. So it's frustrating, but I think people are starting to become aware of it. And listen, I refuse to believe that public safety is a partisan political issue. Certainly not a partisan political issue on Long Island. I've spoken to members of all the major parties, and I've always had a great dialogue with Long Island politicians, and they are squarely in the corner of public safety, and they want to do something about some of these laws that are counterproductive, and we just have to keep on keeping on.
Ray, I have to again. So when someone got arrested for fentanyl, they were back out on the street, and they said they were back in business.
Yeah. So what had happened was the individual undercover officers purchased fentanyl from the individual. The next day, a 51-year-old man was going to his Narcotics Anonymous meeting when he relapsed. And he took fentanyl, or he took the substance containing fentanyl, heroin mixed with fentanyl, I believe it was, and he overdosed. When the police arrived, they saw that a number that corresponded with the dealer who dealt to the decedent had also sold to the police officer. So he was arrested. We asked for bail. We didn't get it. So then we went out and we using our prosecutors and the Suffolk County Police, we enacted another undercover buy. We arrested him a second time, asked for bail. He got out. We then
make this up.
continued to work a case. Yeah. We issued search warrants, found more drugs, arrested him a third time, and I think it was that third time that we were finally able to hold him in on bail. But meanwhile, while this is going on, while he's getting out of jail, he's contacting our undercover officer and saying, I'm still selling. Do you want? You want?
Wow.
So he's still looking to sell the same poison that resulted in the death of the 51-year-old.
That's just unbelievable. Wow.
It's horrible. Ray, you have a lot of initiatives that I really like, and it helps the community. Can you explain what protecting places of worship is?
Sure. So that protecting places of worship, really the genesis of that was right after I got into office. There was that horrible incident in Texas, Uvalde, Texas, where, in my view, the law enforcement really sort of didn't do a good job of protecting those school children, and that tragedy ensued in part because of that. So, we got to thinking. We said, we think that we're prepared for such a contingency on Suffolk County. I have tremendous confidence in our partners, but rather than hope, let's make sure. So we had a school safety summit with our school partners, with our law enforcement partners on both the state and federal side, Suffolk County PD, Suffolk County Sheriffs, East End Police Bureaus, Home HSI, FBI, Secret Service. And we talked about best practices. We talked about how to prevent, mitigate such an event. We did drilling in schools. We talked to schools about how to improve their security measures. We talked about programs to maybe prevent this from happening at all. We talked about how because there's this concept called leakage, which is when a person, the scholarship shows that when a person commits one of these mass acts, there's usually there's usually evidence of that they're evincing an intent to do it for over a year prior to it happening. So we teach peers and teachers to look for those things and let us know. We also have red flag laws that we could use, so we educated people on the red flag laws. So that was great for the schools, and then we started with the schools, and then we just continued it with houses of worship. And again, as a member of law enforcement in Suffolk County, these are the things that keep you up at night. And so we want to make sure that we're doing the best we can to keep people safe, especially in schools and especially in houses of worship.
Now, how do churches and places of worship benefit from this program?
So, well, first and foremost, and we partner with our federal partners in Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, and we can give you, or the Suffolk County PD or Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, they can give you a security evaluation and talk about ways in which you could improve. And then you could go to HSI with that evaluation, and you could apply for a grant. And the federal government will give you a grant that allows you to put in place some of these safety measures. And we have a program where we have the experts, the security experts on the front end talking about the evaluation, and then HSI in the back end saying, okay, this is how you apply for it. So, that's just one example of how it helps. But again, we do the same thing with regard to, how does one survive such a mass? What's the best chances of surviving such a mass incident, preventing it, or mitigating it?
How small this world is. I first met you at George Schwertl's house while you was on campaign, and I have a friend by the name of Michael Ferrer who works for you, who does the assessments.
Yes.
And it's just how things just came together.
Yeah.
So I learned about the Houses of Worship initiative through him.
Yeah, Mike is a surveillance expert and also a locksmith.
What has inspired you to do this career? I mean, I think you touched upon it a little bit, but
yeah, I think I think as a kid it was something that I always wanted to do. An itch I always wanted to scratch, and I think that when I started, my plan was I would do it for a while, and then I would utilize the skills and the experience that I gained from it to go somewhere else and go in the private sector and maybe make a little bit more money. But what I found was this job, it gets under your skin, and some of the things that we've been talking about, these are really impactful, important, and quite frankly interesting things to do. So once you start, it's hard to get it out of your system.
it's like you take it personal, like you want to.
Well, you think that it matters, and I left the DA's office for a short time in 1999, and I think I returned in 2001 or so. And I was working in the private sector, and I was miserable because I just felt that my job didn't really matter. It was, we were arguing over money. You're arguing, not things, not life and death things like you did as a prosecutor. And when 9/11 occurred, I just remember I was doing work for the firm, and I was watching all the emergency vehicles, flood into the city, and I just remember thinking to myself, like, I have to get back into public service because I missed it. So
You're a true public servant. I mean,
Right. Talking about all these cases, has there been a particular case that made you question your own beliefs?
no, No, I don't think so. I think, and that's the funny thing about this job, because I guess it makes a difference whether you're an optimist or a pessimist, because, you see all these terrible things, and I guess that could make you pessimistic about people or society, but it actually makes me optimistic, because I see all of these terrible things that happen, and I see how the victims and the victims' family react to it, and I'm so inspired by them, and I realize the people who are like the victims are so much larger than the very small minority of people that commit crimes. So makes me sort of energizes me and makes me feel good about Suffolk County and our community. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, some people, they would definitely question their beliefs and be, full of stress. But I'm looking at the smile on your face when you just said that. You could tell that we are very lucky, Suffolk.
Very lucky,
We are very
Suffolk
lucky.
County. Very lucky.
One of the things I love when I see articles come in about Ray Tierney, I go read it, and then I go right to the comments. And in the comments, you see a lot of amazing things like our next governor.
That's
We see a lot of things like that, and
well, since you brought that up, Mark. Obviously, you. I know you're going to run for DA.
Yes, I'm my third of 4 years in my first term. I'm definitely running for a second term.
You heard that here first.
And I ran because this is a job I know. This is a job I know I can do a good job in, and that's why I took the job. I didn't take the job because I thought it would look good on my resume, or it would be personally fulfilling, although it is. But the real reason why I took it was because I thought I could make a difference, and that I would take an office that traditionally had been struggling a little bit and turn it around and set it on a course. That my goal is to set it on a course where going forward, the community could have faith and trust in the district attorney's office. So that's what we're trying to do.
No, you got my vote. I know you got his vote.
No, without a doubt. I'm just like, when I see the governor comments, I'm like really interested.
I hear that every day.
Yeah.
I hear that every day. I get the calls all the time. Tierney running for governor? I'm like, well,
Ray.
we're not gonna put him on the spot today, but
I'm running for DA, and I'm running for DA in a year and a half.
Yeah.
we get there.
We'll stay on track.
Yes. All right.
Is there anything you want to share with the viewers? I want to give you a chance to, have the floor. Anything upcoming? Anything, that you have,
No,
in your works?
I think what I would suggest is, with regard to my office, I think that you should go on my website. You should check we have a really robust community outreach program. We have Kim Gerardo and Shannon Wilson. They do a fantastic job, and we try to be really helpful and robust community partners. And there's a lot of things that the DA's office does. There's a lot of employment opportunities for the DA's office. It's not just being a cop or a prosecutor. There's analysts. There's all sorts of. There's financial. There's financial analysts. There's computer analysts. There's forensics. There's discovery expediters. There's clerical. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity to gain a job in the district attorney's office. And what we want to do is we want our Suffolk County kids to come and work for us. That's in all our communities. We want our Suffolk County kids in all our communities to come and become Suffolk County DAs, because while we have some really great prosecutors and some really great workers that are from outside of Suffolk County, our bread and butter are the people who were born and raised in Suffolk County, and similar to me, have a stake in the community and care about the community and plan to stay and raise their own families in the community.
And wait, aren't you a grandpa now?
I am.
I got to throw that in there. I had to throw that in there.
Yes, I became on Leap Day. So my grandson is a leapling, which I didn't know that was the term for a child that was born on Leap Day, February 29th. First grandchild, and it's been wonderful. It's been a lot of fun for my wife and myself, and it's fun to see it again, but this time through the eyes of your daughter. So we're having a good time with it.
That's great. One more. I know his wife is a sweetheart, and I never forget. We were talking about something, and she said, "He's a prosecutor. You never want an argument with him."
She does. She says when we quarrel, she says, stop with your tricks.
Yeah.
Stop with your tricks.
And is it true he said, "I'm going to put you on the stand"?
Yeah. Well, I tend to slip into cross-examination, but she doesn't let me do it. As soon as I start, she says, "All right, knock it off. Knock it off."
Great. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This one's for my hometown heroes. Made it to the top from zero. And from my hometown heroes. Made it to the top from zero.